Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good, thank you. How did you get into the MMA? I know you were a fighter at one point.
Yeah. I when I went to the Naval Academy, my brother had smuggled me a tape of UFC one. So we weren't allowed to have TVs or anything. So we snuck into the company officer's wardroom, watched it, uh, thought it was great, followed it for a while, came back home, ended up going to a Thai boxing gym when Fairtex was still over in Revere, and then ended up moving out to Oregon. That's where I finished my degree. Moved down to Texas because my family's in the funeral business, so I was going to a bombing school down there. So while there, I had packed on a few pounds, and I was like, I got to get back in shape. So I was just looking around, and I ended up at Brown's Gymnastics in Houston with Eve Edwards. I mean, I think basically before he had even his first fight, and started working out with him and Tim Mosel, and we were just beating the crap out of each other. And then they were like, "You should take a fight." So I did. And first fight didn't have much grappling. I got put in a rear naked choke, and when I woke up a few minutes later, I was like, I should probably learn grappling. And so then for the next couple of years, just zinging around back in the fun days when the rules changed for every show you went, and ended up back home. And it was kind of a pain to keep training because you had to go to one place for striking to another place. Like there were no MMA gyms. And then one night, someone didn't show, and one thing led to another. Someone's like, "Can you ref?" I was like, "Sure." And back then, it was like, stop it if they tap, they can't bite, and don't let them die. So, like, I could do that. And, then it just kind of went from there. And, it's been a fun ride.
Where did you get after your first, I guess, reffing? How did you get into the actual training to become a ref? Or you
So
did?
there really wasn't any. The training was, thumbs up, thumbs up. And so then I moved away. I got married, and we moved away, my wife and I, for 2 years doing travel nursing. And in that time, Massachusetts came in and started sanctioning MMA. I heard from guys back home that it wasn't going well because it was a lot of folks that really just didn't understand the sport. And, guys were getting hurt because they didn't understand what was going on. And so when I came home, I was encouraged to put my paperwork in, which I did. And it was funny because the first night I went was like on a trial basis. And they said, I had to wear a white shirt and a bow tie and black pants. And they said I wouldn't be getting paid that night. And they had me do the first fight and then the next fight. And then the next fight. It's like, oh, this kid seems all right. But so I did a few shows with Mass, and then they ended up pulling out because they were taking kickboxing licenses and just writing mixed martial arts. So with it not being a recognized sport, it wasn't illegal. It just wasn't sanctioned. So they took a 6-month moratorium, which ended up turning into, I think it was about 6 years. So after a few months, a few of us kind of poked our heads up from the sand and we're like, it's not illegal. It's just not sanctioned. So we went back with like USKBA, and then I think Kip might have been running with somebody else, and a few others, and they ended up we were booming. We were doing shows. I mean, at certain times, 3-4 a month in Massachusetts, and we were self-sanctioning, but we had a sanctioning body for insurance purposes. And at that point, guys would just call me to ref and, hey, can you grab someone else? And can you get judges? And so in that period of time, I just kind of put a team together and we just started cranking out shows. So it was kind of like commission in a box. I just charged what the state did, and I added on $200, and I brought the scorecards and the bell and the air horns and the whistles and all that. And so then that led to needing more guys and bringing them on board. And then we got to the point where the ABC was looking for new trainers for referees and judges. So I was encouraged to put my thing in there, which I did. And then that led to going all over.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
it's been cool.
I mean, I know you're super busy, because
Not
you're
now.
a firefighter, right?
Yes.
You're a firefighter, you're a ref, you're a judge. Do you participate in your family business?
No, actually, I've got a crazy story. Like, I'm that guy when you meet and you talk to, people are like, yeah, he's full of it. And then a lot of stuff starts to check out. Like, so I came back home to Boston to work in the family business, realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to, it wasn't my thing. And if you don't love it, like, the job is horrible.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a strange phone call from a friend that I had met through my travels. And one thing led to another, and they flew my wife and I out to Seattle to meet with the owner of a yo-yo company. I accepted a job. Yeah.
Okay.
So they trained me how to use a yo-yo and to do this elementary school show involving yo-yos and magic, which I had no background in. But they trained me, and next thing you know, I was traveling all over the U.S. Doing motivational speaking for children, using a yo-yo to get their attention. I've been able to perform on the front lawn of the White House twice for the Easter egg roll and for the 4th of July.
Wait, with the yo-yo?
Yeah.
Okay. You got to show me some video of that.
No, there is nobody on it. But so then I had taken the civil service test, and then, I knew the yo-yo wouldn't be a lifetime thing, but I ended up getting called up by the fire department. So I stayed doing both for a while, just staying in New England, not traveling with the yo-yo guys, because there's a bunch of them around the country. And then I ended up, severing that as my kids, came into being. And so now fire department, which is 24 hours every 72 hours. So every fourth day I'm in for 24. My wife's a nurse at Brigham and Women's. She's a manager. And my boys are 12 and 14, so we can leave them alone a bit now. But I was traveling a lot with the fighting. And honestly, I got to say, like, I wish the fights get back up and going for the people that make their living doing it. For me, it was always just extra because it doesn't pay very much. Mm-hmm. So I've loved being home, being able to be with the kids and spend this time, but it's hopefully it gets going again.
So do you think the training is going to change with now the COVID that's happening? Like, is your training going to be changing for the refs or judges or anything like that?
I mean, at this point, no, because at the end of the day, as a referee, there's two guys assaulting each other, mm-hmm. and the referee's job is to either spot and assess fouls or stop the bout when it has to be. So as far as the social distancing nonsense, like, it's not a thing. It was a pool noodle or something, but it is what it is. As far as, the judging, judging is a hands-off position. So they can, do everything how they want to do it. But at the end of the day, because you're cage side, like, this is a sport where spit flies out, blood flies out, snot flies out. I mean, we even had to write a rule on, piss, crap, and puke, just because it wasn't in the rule book. So, it's not the most sanitary, but you do what you can.
When do you think it's going to be happening around here in our area?
Well, I don't know. I mean, our governor has surely not been on the forefront or cutting edge of new things. I would imagine you'll see New Hampshire run first, because their commission has a lot less of the bureaucracy to deal with. Mm-hmm. And they opened for business today. They're allowing large gatherings and things like that. or they stop banning small gatherings or whatever it is.
Either one.
Yeah. Maine, I imagine their commission would be cool, but their governor is not business friendly, as we've seen all over the news. Rhode Island, the people seem to want it, but the governor, I mean, heck, just looking on Facebook, you can't visit your mother in the ER, but they can have 2,000 people laying face down, at City Hall. Like, regardless of your stance on any things, like it if that's the state we're in, then I don't think MMA is high on the governor's list of things to do.
It's so heartbreaking. I need it to open.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with me. Everyone, I think, has their moments.
Yeah.
And with me, it was like my kids' summer camp just 2 days ago, because it's a Christian camp up in New Hampshire, and it's wonderful. No electronics, break from everything. And New Hampshire had led them to believe that with the initial stuff, they were going to be able to do it. They were going to be able to make it work. And they invested some money and they set some things up. And then 2 days ago, the final draft came down, and they're like, there's no possible way to do overnight camp with what the governor said. So it's like, to me, that was like my brother's got a karate school, poor guy, 26 years in the industry. And it's like, you end up with this weird situation where there are some parents that want him to open ASAP. Mm-hmm. There are others that are terrified of this COVID, and they think that the Zoom classes are the greatest thing ever. And then there's the folks in between. And any martial arts school, nobody's been getting new students. I mean, some folks might be able to keep 70, 80% of what they got, but the nature of the martial arts school is turnover. And you have to always be getting new people. And as you come into the summer, nobody signs up in the summer. So most parents, if anything, want to call and put their membership on hiatus. And when they put their membership on hiatus, now that's not income coming in, so it's going to be a really tough stretch for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. I can't. I'm done. I need to be out.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. I swear. I'm like losing my mind. I was already losing my mind to begin with. And this isn't helping,
Well, I think, like, how long ago does it seem that we were all watching Tiger King?
I didn't watch it. I was like, I'm good.
But it's almost like that seems like ages ago.
Yes.
And then we had the mask phase and the mask fight and and now we're in the whole protest versus not protest versus I can't have a funeral, he can have, like, it's almost like they just keep adding to the pressure, and then they wonder why it explodes.
Actually, now that you said that, has it affected your family business?
So the funeral end, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad's retired. My brother never went in, and so we technically at this point don't have any ownership or anything like that. But obviously we know the folks in the industry, and it's hit them crazy, because in the beginning, all the embalmers and stuff, they couldn't get the PPE because it was all going to the hospitals. It was all going to the first responders. Like, everyone was trying to, and they were one group that, like, is so small and overlooked that, like, they legitimately needed it, but they weren't listed as authorized people to get it. So that took a couple of weeks. And then you have a lot of these families that, they're just heartbroken because, especially when you have, it's one thing if it's a 95-year-old man who's got a small family and they're all family and they do their thing. But, there's cases where, someone in their teens, 20s, and those wakes are generally, thousands of people, hours of waiting. And to have those things where, eight cars, 8 family members, and it's to the point where once it goes past a certain point, like, one thing you learn in the industry, everybody forgets. Mm-hmm. You think about that person when they lose someone, right off the bat. And for maybe 3 or 4 days after the funeral's over, you see everyone sends flowers. They all come in to sign the book. A week after that funeral, that's when it hits the families. Mm-hmm. Because no one's talking about it. I mean, no one's, and so it's, on a side note, I've been a huge anti-flower guy just because, like, for one, as a funeral director, it was always hard because you're just throwing things away. Yeah. And, which again, didn't make me a good funeral director. I'm not a salesman. But it was, I mean, you think about it, like people are spending thousands of dollars for a family that's struggling to afford this funeral for something that they're going to look at for all of 3 hours. And then they're either going to be left at the cemetery and thrown away by the grounds crew, or potentially brought to a nursing home to be thrown away by the nursing home staff because they don't want them either. Whereas if you did something simple, like there are some cultural groups where, they cover it. And it's like, just think, if you had, instead of $4,000 in flowers, if you use that to wipe out the bill, everybody wins, except the florist.
That's awesome. So which organizations are you repping when you start back up again?
Whoever calls and is legit. I can tell you, I got asked for one of the crazy, this is happening, it's not, you'll lose your license, you won't, but at the end of the day, the amount of unsanctioned fight are pretty small, and I wouldn't do an unsanctioned fight. Mm-hmm. But once they get up and rolling again, like Vegas has their guys, Florida has their guys. They sent a bunch of us a list to see who could go down and stay there for a week to do the Jacksonville shows a few weeks ago. I said I could. The only catch was I would have had to bring my kids because of my wife's job, and the parents can't watch them because the kids may have to be near the parents. And then I'm sure when I got back in town, I'm sure some Karens would have, been like, why is this firefighter on ESPN in Florida tackling bloody? So I probably would have had to, spend 2 weeks.
Yeah, quarantine.
So when I didn't get selected, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a little, but I was willing to do it. But they, folks call, at this point, my biggest fear is being called for a long flight and having to wear a stupid mask the whole flight. That's the pinnacle of where
that sucks.
But it just depends on, who calls. It's usually, the way this industry works, usually the promotion has certain people that they're comfortable with, whether it's PFL, whether it's Bellator, whether it's UFC. They have certain folks and they know roughly where they live. So they'll send something to the commission like, hey, we understand you guys have some officials that you're going to use, we'd like, these guys have shown in the past, that they work well with us. Here's 6 names that are available. If you folks would consider choosing 2 of them, we would be, and some states are like, we'll just call off the list. Some states are like, we'll use none off the list. We're using just our guy. Everything's different. So it's, some states like using certain people. Some states, don't. So whatever, whenever, phone rings, say yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. Is there anything that you want to say to wrap it up?
No, not really. I mean, I hope this thing gets going again. I think the first few fights, once it does get going again, I think, and I think they're going to be a blast. I think people are going to be looking forward to it, and hopefully it's able to be done. When you think about what this sport has come through, between risking arrest just to take part in, to riots in the buildings, to cages collapsing and doors flying off, and geez, yes. Just this sport's been through a lot. So we're gonna get through this, and I just hope that the fighters, like I feel awful thinking of some of these folks that are in the prime shape of their life. And, here we are now because, feelings, feelings on COVID mortality aside, like, it's just, let me sign the waiver. Like, isn't that what a waiver's for? Like,
How do you
sign the
really
waiver.
feel?
It's, but yeah, I just hope to see folks again. And I think a lot of this toxic, online stuff, I think a lot of it hopefully goes away a little bit when people are again face to face, and maybe some folks need to punch each other in the face, and that's better than keyboard warriors, and that's cool too. I mean, I'm no stranger to online hate. You question that, take a look at Twitter feeds. Everybody hates the ref.
We love you, Kevin.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Of course. Great seeing you. Thanks for having me.